always on my mind and way out of my league. You were born to be on display, and I'm hard to read. I thought of you, hoping that the ripples would make you notice me. And now you're here, sunlight on the ripples, somehow you noticed me. I don't believe it's all about the things that we share. Marry me when the lights go out. You know I'll be there. I thought of you, hoping that the ripples would make you notice me. And now you're here, sunlight on the ripples, somehow you notice me. Whatever you decide to do, I will keep sending new ripples to you. I thought of you, hoping that the ripples would make you notice me. And now you're here, sunlight on the ripples, somehow you notice me.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Rooted in Well-being. This is my first show, and I want to let you know I am a little nervous, so please bear with me. We've had a little bit of technical difficulties today, and I apologize profusely. I was hoping that we'd overcome Mercury, but Mercury had its say. I'm so glad that you're joining us. This is my inaugural show, something that I never, ever imagined happening. I am your host and guide, Dr. Annekelty. I'm a licensed naturopathic physician and a doTERRA wellness advocate. I really don't know how I got here, except that I follow my heart, my guides in spirit, and it can get me into some interesting situations. I never saw this coming. Our hope is that you will find the information presented in this program educational and enlightening, thought-provoking, and fun. I know I have a lot of interests, and I'm hoping to bring a lot of them in. And we're going to have some special guests, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So, a little bit about me. I have a geeky side. I graduated from University of Massachusetts in Boston with a degree in geography. Oh, wait a minute, it gets better. I actually minored in electrical engineering. My thought at the time was I was going to build robots. But the upper hand was placed on me, and I actually met a Native American medicine man towards the end of my career at University of Massachusetts, and his friendship rocked my life and sent me off in a very different direction than I thought I was going to be going in. In 1995, he sent me off to the National University of Naturopathic Medicine in Portland, Oregon, where I met some profound, amazing people. A lot of them we're still in contact today, and I love to see that the profession of naturopathic physicians is growing, and the young people are picking up on it, and this is very, very exciting to me. I have been blessed in so many ways. So I want to tell you a little bit about what I see for the show. The show, I believe, is, I know that it's guided. I know that greats and the archangels all have their hand in this play, and I know the technical difficulties we had today was no less than their joke on making sure that we're here and centered. But what I do want to say is that this show is going to be on health, wellness, and spirituality. And there are no borders. It's going to be free-flowing as much as we can. And we're going to have a lot of fun. So you learned a little bit about my geeky side, the electrical engineering and the natural medicine. So let me tell you a little bit about the spiritual side. As a young child, I was the first in my family. I was the first grandchild. And my grandmother decided that it was her job, her duty to bring me to church. And when I was 2, I started going to church. And of course, Grandma likes to sit, Nani likes to sit. So it's like pew 1 or pew 2. And here I am, 2 years old, sitting in church. And I honestly believe this is what fostered my knowledge of Spirit, God, Creator. And when I was there, I swear that this is where I built up my relationship with Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Jesus has been my mentor for many, many years, all my life. He's come in and out, visited me in different ways. And so now we go fast forwarding a little bit, and we see that I had some help to expand on my spirituality by meeting with a Native American medicine man who, again, came out of left field. Nothing in my life is ever as I plan it. And when I met Steve, I was actually doing a dare with a bunch of my college buddies. And what we did is we decided to go get our taxi license, and I drove taxi in the city of Boston for a period of time. Steve worked at the Logan Airport here in Boston, and that's how I met him. He was putting somebody in my car, and he said something to me, and it just rocked my soul and my spirit. I had gone to Mexico and to study Spanish, and when I came back, he said to me, "What are the spirits doing?" And I said, "Wow, is that really what's been going on?" Because I had some really strange dreams. I was laying on the couch. I had to go to work, and when you have like 3 hours to sleep, and you can't sleep. So what I did is I just laid down, and I get into a meditative state, and just quieted my mind. And what I was seeing is that chapters of books were opening, chapters of books were closing. Lots of like angels coming around there. So this is the kind of thing that happened at that point, and I had no idea what it was about. But when my boyfriend at the time asked me to pick Steve up at work because he couldn't drive home, Um, that was the first thing he said is, what are the spirits doing? And we had gone out for coffee that evening. And he says to me, you have a choice. You can open up to your spiritual gifts and your gifts this lifetime, your healing gifts, or you can shut them down. It's your choice. It's like a door that's open, and you either walk through it or you don't. And he said, it's totally your choice. Well, I can hear some of you laughing at this point, because if you know anything about a spiritual walk, you know that you're always given a choice, because God gives us, Creator gives us free will. And so anything we do in our lives from a spiritual point of view, or anything we do, has to come from free will and free choice. However, when he gave me the choice, I knew what the choice was. I knew what the decision was, and I knew what the answer was. It was that I was going to take that journey. I was going to walk on that road. I had no idea what it meant at the time. And here I am 30 years later, and I still don't know what it means. Because it keeps putting me into very, very sometimes sticky situations, enlightened situations, in places that I just never thought I'd end up. You will learn about some of these places as we go through this program. So for me, what I really learned about being in church with my grandmother is that I really loved ritual. I really loved the songs and the prayers. And my upbringing is Roman Catholic. And I know what you're going to say. I'm a recovering Catholic. All you people out there, recovering Catholics, you know what? Embrace it. Yeah, there's some problems with religion. And I'm not going to get into religion. I'll get into spirituality with you. Well, let's have a conversation on spirituality, but we're not going to go into religion. But what I want to let you know is that when you're brought up in a religion, or when you have the opportunity to get into a spiritual place, take those gifts, take those nuggets, take those pearls, bring them into your heart and your soul, and take what's right for you. It's not always right. Not all religions are going to help you in the way. Not help you, but sometimes it's not the religion that you're looking for, but it's the ritual and the prayer and the song. And so for me, I found that it's important to have music and song and prayer and dance. And in many cultures, dance is sacred. It's a sacred ritual. And I was always drawn to the Native American culture. And as I learned more about Creator, as they say Creator, in Catholics we say God. In other religion, it's something else. But it's all one. It all comes from one source. And I understand the world in which we live a little better by learning a little more about the Creator side of life. In the Native American culture, from what I learned, is they give respect to everything in life. Now, growing up Catholic, I heard that God is everywhere. God is in everything. But what does that really mean to you? To me, it just meant that God was everywhere and everything. It didn't give me any foundation or structure to hold that onto. But what I did find in the Native American culture was Creator. And the way it was described to me was that plant that you're sitting next to, this is Creator. This is part of Creator. This electronics that we are so blessed to have these days, this is also image of Creator. The sun and the stars are Creator. our family and friends, our cars, our food. This is all part of, this is what creator is. It's not part of, it is creator. So when we see a bumblebee, we thank creator. We thank it for being part of creation. And this is how I learned to appreciate more the world around me. The rocks, the plants, the water. I have always lived a simple life. And I think that was creators doing, not to get too caught up in a lot of the commercialism or other parts of the big world, to just so that I can keep myself simple, my life simple. I don't have a lot of properties. I live very simply. And when I met Steve, I knew my life was changing. But you know what? Before I met Steve, I had met a Native American man I had gone out with for a period of time. And he was at my house one day and he said, I'm going to call my mom. And I said, oh, okay. His mom lived up on a reservation in New Brunswick, Canada. And so I get on the phone with her and we're chatting and I give him back the phone. He says, Mom invited me up to the reservation. And he looked at me startled and astonished and said, my mother never invites my girlfriends up. And I said, well, here's the phone. She just did. So a couple months later, we get in the car and we drive to New Brunswick. And from Boston, it's a 12-hour ride to the reservation. And boy, did I have a interesting time there. But I also met one of my teachers, Joey Paul. Joey Paul is a medicine man up in the native traditional ways. And so are his brothers. I met him. I was young. And of course, you know, when you're young, you're doing things that are kind of silly, like drinking and partying. And so we were told that in order to go over to Joey's house, we couldn't be getting high. We couldn't be drinking. We had to be straight because he was a man of honor and he was a man of medicine, and that it's not allowed in his house. And I said, okay. Met a lot of wonderful people up on that reservation. And then in 2001, when I graduated, I ended up going back up to Canada and went to see him, Joey Paul. Knocked on his front door, and he comes running across the house playing some heavy rock music. And he looks at me and he says, well, it's about time you showed up. And I said, what are you talking about? We're going around the corner. He says, you're going to stay and drink coffee with me all night. And I was like, no, actually, we have dinner plans around the corner. Well, if you know anything about the native ways, I never made it to dinner around the corner. I never made it anywhere for 4 days and 4 nights. We'll get into that later. But he definitely changed my life in 2001. If you see a theme here, I keep having these wonderful, amazing native people coming into my life with amazing teachings. And what they've taught me is that I've always been gifted, shall we say. And it always got me in gobs of trouble, even when I didn't say anything at all, which is why I'm very curious as to where this whole podcast is going, because I've been silent for more than 30 years. It all started when I was very young, that my father would do something and come home, and I'd look at him, and he and my mom were talking, and I would say, but da-di-da-di-da, what about this? And he'd look at me like, you weren't supposed to know that I was at the track, or you weren't supposed to know that I went and did this. And I'd always call him out on it, not even knowing that I was doing it. So he very quickly, at a very young age, shut me down. And I learned that at that time, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. At that time, he had to shut me down because it was dangerous for me and him and the world for me to be able to be that clear with everybody around me. And at that point, he told me that what was wrong, but also what was right was wrong. And so as I continued into my adolescence, teenage years, and young adult and adulthood, I had a very difficult time trying to discern what was right, what was wrong, because I was always told everything was wrong. And so when I went into a discussion class or I had to debate something, I shut down very quickly because I could never be right. So let's see if we can do something about that. I probably have a whole lot to say, and my voice is shaking here. And so what I did learn is that, and what I know is that giving up your gifts and having to shut them down is about losing something very precious, something very sacred. And what I am here to do is to start giving people back those precious pearls. We all come here for a reason, and let us find a way to support each other on this earth walk, because we have gifts. And let us come together in love and compassion and kindness, which is some of the things we're going to be talking about later down the line. Let us bring these to light. I know that I had Jesus by my side from the day, by the time I was 2 years old. I knew I had the angels and the archangels on my side, even in my darkest of times. I always knew in my darkest time that it was a lesson for me to learn. There was something there. It wasn't just that I was having a bad day or I just had a car accident. There was always a reason that I knew that was happening. And I'm going to start right now and tell you full disclosure, I'd been raped 5 times. At least twice gang raped. And I think this is the first time I've actually spoken about it. So, but I need to put that on the line because, I lost something special and precious in that time, but at the same time, as bad as it was, I learned something from it. And I'm still learning. And the other part is that as a healer, as a warrior, you need to walk through the dark times. And so this was my dark time. These are the times where I need to know that I am here to help people who have been in this situation, men, women, and children. And I want to create safe space for them. And so we'll have people on to talk about safe spaces as well. I think we're coming up on a break, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, I was told we got 6 minutes before the break, so I get to still chat. Okay, so let's see. What else do we want to talk about today? So I've been told I'm a very special person. And you know what that means about being special. Yeah. Anyway, my intention is that we'll cover a wide range of topics, including naturopathic and complementary medicine, essential oils, spiritual indigenous teachings, and a whole lot more. there was a special guest that was supposed to call tonight. I'm sure he'll come on the show at a different time. He's got some really special news to tell us. And my guests are coming from all walks of life. Quite literally, all walks of life. I was speaking with a friend today, and I had done a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and she was telling me how touching it was, that even just having the support of me on the radio or TV or whatever it was that we did, was bringing her some comfort, solstice, and healing. I didn't realize that my voice and my words, my spirit, and my healing abilities could do that for people. And I get to touch your life. And that's what I love about Ripples. I meant to say I love the song Ripples so much earlier, but this is where it comes in. Ripples. I mean, if we talk to somebody, we touch somebody, we hug somebody, anything we do in our lives, we're sending out ripples from our to their lives. And there are so many ripples in this world. Let's continue those ripples. So what do you want? So what do you want to know about? If I don't have an answer for you, I'll tell you one. Okay. Absolutely. So if I don't have an answer for you today, when you call in or ask her a question, I'll let you know that I might not have an answer for you today because it may not be in my train of thought. However, what I'm going to ask you to do is send us an email, and then we can work on getting you an answer. Or go to my Facebook page or my website. The website is Anne, ANNE, ND, naturopathicdoctor.com. It's a lovely little website. And I just got a great little space in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in Central Square on Mass Ave. If you're looking for a naturopathic doctor, you're looking for some healing from a medicine woman, that would be me. And I would love to work with you. I'm at 5 Doors Health and Wellness in Cambridge. So what I want to talk a little bit today is naturopathic medicine. How about that? So naturopathic medicine is a system of medicine. And what it is we study the same basic sciences that a medical doctor studies. Where we kind of are different is that we also have to study nutrition, botanical medicines, homeopathy, Chinese medicine, hydrotherapy, physical and physiotherapy, manipulation. So in order to be a naturopathic doctor, you need to cover all of those. You need to be proficient in all of these modalities of healing. Take a 4-day examination for proficiency on that level, and then we can be licensed. Many people say to me, oh, so you're a homeopath or you're a nutritionist. And no, I'm actually not. You can go to school and you can study homeopathy. You can go to school and you can study nutrition or herbalism. Chiropractors and acupuncturists and, have their own set of study. But a homeopath cannot be a naturopath. A nutritionist cannot be a naturopath. An herbalist cannot be a naturopath unless they go to a 4-year medical program and get certified and do all of your 4 years of programming. We are coming up on a break, so why don't we take a break and then I'll go into a little bit more detail on what it means to study naturopathic medicine. And again, I am so excited that you're here today, and thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll be right back.
dusty roads ahead, crossing rivers dreaming of a bed, from window and night clouds up high. I can touch the stream of gold above, breaking through with hope and love, giving peace of mind to those of us who try. Try to make a way. I can hear you say, let the sun shine on the broken. Let the summer come again. Let the heat find all the frozen. Let the force in. And I am above, above. I feel above. Oh, you've seen 1,000 lovers meet. You've seen 1,000 times meet. Seen the birds upon a hill beneath a crown. Try to make a way. I can hear you say, let the sun shine on the broken. Let the summer come again. Let the heat find all the frozen. Let the force in. And I am above, above. I feel above. Oh, let the sun shine on the broken. Let the summer come again. Let the heat find all the frozen. Let the force in. 'Cause I am. Let the force in. 'Cause I am. Let the force in. I am above, above. I feel above, above. I feel above, above. I feel above. Oh, I feel above.
Don't go.
There are no wasted efforts in nature. The fragrance of a flower, the smell of an orange, or the scent of a pine tree all serve specific purposes vital to a plant's survival. What our senses perceive as fragrances or scents are actually volatile aromatic compounds, tiny organic molecules that serve a variety of protective, reproductive, and regenerative purposes. These compounds help ward off unfriendly pests, attract friendly herbivores and insects, and even help the plant heal from infection and physical injury. There are over 3,000 identified varieties of aromatic compounds, each with its own unique and functional chemical constituents that provide different aromas and benefits to the plants. From the petals of a flower, to the leaves of a plant, the rind of a fruit, or the resin of a tree, these volatile aromatic compounds are all around us. Distilled directly from their plant sources, essential oils are multifaceted agents that have seemingly endless applications to our health and can be used aromatically, topically, or internally. Ensuring the maximum potency and beneficial properties of essential oil are the result of maintaining the delicate ratio of aromatic constituents found in that essential oil, all of which can vary depending on the time of day or part of the plant which is harvested, the time of year or life cycle when harvested, the geographic location, and whether where the plant was grown, or the method and even the duration of distillation. For that reason, it is vital that essential oils come from a trusted source committed to not only producing unadulterated essential oils, but to adhering to the strictest production protocols. There are no wasted efforts in nature. Neither should there be in the health care you provide for yourself and those you love.
Thank you for coming back. I'm your host, Dr. Annekelty, naturopathic doctor. I'm so glad you're joining us today. So you just saw our ad for doTERRA essential oils, and I'm telling you, I love essential oils. They are the lifeblood of the plants. I'm hoping to get into talking about plant spirit medicine as well as we move on. These are amazing medicine, herbal medicines in a bottle. But as I promised, I was going to talk to you about what it means to become a naturopathic doctor. So I want to compare a little bit about what a naturopathic doctor is to a medical doctor, because they're different branches, and each branch possesses its own tools and methodologies. NDs and MDs represent two distinct branches of the medical tree, each sharing the same foundation or trunk. While there are similarities between the Western allopathic medicine program and the naturopathic medical program, each field is unique and offers distinct benefits to the patients and the medical field as a whole. Naturopathic medicine is definitely complementary. Naturopathic doctors, we're trained at 4-year in-residence graduate level medical school programs, accredited naturopathic medical schools. There are 5 naturopathic medical schools in the United States. There's one in Canada. And they have been accredited by one of the regional accrediting agencies approved by the United States Department of Education. They're also accredited by the Council on Naturopathic Medical Education, CNME, the recognized accreditor for the naturopathic medical programs in North America. How do you get to medical school? How do you get to naturopathic medical school? Well, like conventional medical schools, naturopathic medical programs require that an applicant meet specific prerequisites. So although the requirements differ slightly from school to school, all of our schools require an undergraduate degree and have a minimum GPA requirements and academic prerequisites. And prerequisites encompass biology, chemistry, physics, algebra, psychology, social sciences, and humanities. Fortunately for me, studying an engineering undergraduate, I had covered most of those prerequisite requirements because I don't think I said it before. When I met Steve, when Steve and I talked in 1995, it was May, and he said it was time to go to school. And I said, for what? And he says, anything you want. And I looked at him and I said, Steve, I don't know you that well. However, I know that it's not anything I want. Where am I going? He goes, anything you want. He's like, okay, let's work on this here. And so we sat down and we probably did some prayers, and we went and traveled here and there and looked at different things. And I chose a naturopathic medical school. And so I applied. Here it is. Okay, I'm telling you, it's May 1995. I started school in September 1995. I did not plan to go to medical school in those 4 months. In those 4 months, I was just treading water to get through the courses I needed to get through. And what did I have to do that summer? I had to do, what was it? Organic chemistry 1 and 2. Don't forget the labs that go with it. And then biology 1 and 2. And don't forget the labs that go with it. So that was what? 4, 8, 12, at least 16 credits in less than 12 weeks that I had to complete before being able to go to medical school. In the meantime, I was applying to medical school, naturopathic medical school. And then I get the call in July from Bastyr University in Washington State. And I thought this was the school I wanted to go to. And they called and told me that I wasn't their candidate of choice, that they weren't going to accept me, and that I should look for something else. So I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. This is where I thought I was going. I was so ready to grab onto this opportunity. So I went to my favorite little spot where there's a lot of trees, and I sat under my willow tree all day and I cried. I just cried. And I remember there were 2 guys, but one guy in particular was just watching me all day, and he came up to me later that day and he said, "I've been watching you cry all day. What is going on? Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay, but I'm not going to school where I thought I was going to go, and I don't know what to do with myself now." And he says, "Well, what can you do?" I said, "Well, I could go to become a massage therapist." "Well, you could do that." And I was like, "Yeah, but that's really not what I want to do." So I was just crying and crying, and he just felt so bad for me. And so I get home that day, and I had closed my apartment because I had to study so much that summer. My grandparents said, "Just come live with us. You don't need an apartment. You just come live with us, because we know you're going to school at the end of the summer." They had so much faith and trust in me. So I go back to my grandmother's house, and I'm like a wet rag, just totally cried out for 6 or 8 hours. And she says, so-and-so from the National University of Natural Medicine called you today. Want you to call him back. I'm like, "Excuse me?" So I called her up and I said, "Hey, Mindy, what's going on?" She says, "Hi, I want to talk to you about your entrance." And I was like, this is a really bad joke. Bastyr just told me that I was not their candidate of choice, that I had absolutely no way to get into that school. And she says, no, we really want you. We like what you do, and we want you here. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding. So here I am. I'm on a real low, and then I get high. And so my emotions are just flying all over the place. And I was like, "Are you serious about this? Or are you just joking with me?" And she was like, "No, we're dead serious. And you need to come, but you don't have time to go back. So you're going to come out for an interview, and then you're going to start school." And so I said, "Okay, what's the last date I can get there?" And so I chose to go at the end of August, beginning of September, because I had committed to a friend to cater her wedding. So I can't leave her high and dry. So I said, all right, so after the wedding, I'm going to go out and go for the interview. And I'm blessed because I get out there. So I'm on the plane and I meet Steve, and he says, "Just be yourself." I said, "I don't even know who I am at this point to get to medical school. Just be yourself." Okay. So I get on the plane. I'm in the middle of the country waiting for my connector flight. And I go up to the desk and I said, "So what's going on? Where are we going? What's happening?" "Oh, well, we'll get you into Portland, Oregon at about 3 a.m. I says, No, dear, that's not going to work for me. I said, I have to be at a medical school interview in the morning. And I don't have a place to stay right now. If you got me in early enough, I would have had a place to stay. But getting me there at 3 o'clock in the morning. There's no place I can go. And they said, don't worry, we'll take care of you. So they flew me down to Arizona. I was flying Southwest. They flew me down to Arizona, gave me a free room, free breakfast, and then free shuttle back to the airport in the morning to catch a flight. Caught the flight to Portland, Oregon. And I have so much trust I have just so much trust in Creator. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't. So I get on the transit out there, and I said she says, where are you going? I says, oh, I'm going here. And I showed her the address. She goes, oh, okay. And she gives me a free bus pass for the day. Who does that? So she says, okay. We went down. So I took the bus down to the train station, which is about a 20-minute ride. And as we get there, the train is pulling in. She goes, that's the train you want. Go get it. I said, okay. And so I get on the train. And then we get to the end of the line. I had to catch a bus. Now, not knowing at that point that the bus was only running once an hour, I get off the train down to the bus and got to the school. Who does that happen to? Me. Obviously, me. I walk into the school, and it's in an elementary school. This is where we started. This is where they started. Now they have a beautiful place. But when it was young, we had an elementary school, and I went in there and I said, I'm Annekelty and I'm here for my interview. And they said, okay, we're running a little behind. Can you just go into the library? And so I started perusing the books in the library, looking at all these wonderful books. And the one that catches my eye is on death and dying. And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And so I ended up, okay, they call me in and I'm going to my interview. And there's 4 people in the interview, and I'm sitting there, and I remember Steve saying, just be yourself. And I'm like, okay, just be myself. Just be myself. Who the heck am I? Who's myself? I have no idea at this point. I'm so nervous. No planning to go to medical school. And they asked me this question, like something about death and dying. And I said, of all the books I had to see in the library, right? I said, well, I did see some books on that in your library, and I'm figuring that in the 4 years that I'm going to be here learning, that I would get some support and idea and training on how to kind of work with that. I must have answered the questions right. They said, okay, so we're going to have a meeting and we'll let you know. I went outside, sat by a pine tree, and of course got the pitch all over my nice skirt. What a way to start my time in Oregon. Had a nice tea and finished that. Said a few prayers. What am I doing here? Is this really where I'm supposed to be? And I walk in, and there's Alan Shaw, who's an amazing person in his own right. He said, Annekelty. I said, yes, that's me. And he said, welcome, congratulations. I was like, he goes, you're starting school. And I was like, you've got to be kidding. He says, no, you've been accepted. And I was just blown away. I came to Portland, Oregon with a one-way ticket, a backpack, and enough money to get me home if I needed to, or get an apartment. So I ended up meeting a cousin of mine, and he took me around, and we found myself a room. So, trust your instincts. Trust that spirit, that God, the Creator, has your best interest at heart. If you feel it in your heart, you feel it in your gut, and you're moving forward with it, do it. Do it. You might be scared to death. I was, but I still did it. Anyway, the curriculum for naturopathic medicine. So to be a licensed naturopathic doctor or a medical doctor, we all have the same basic biomedical sciences. An ND, a naturopathic doctor, will study the holistic and non-toxic approaches to therapy with a strong emphasis on disease prevention and optimizing wellness. naturopathic medical students learn to treat all aspects of family health and wellness, from pediatrics to geriatrics. Clinical exposure to patients is essential to the education of naturopathic doctors, so much so that the clinical training is now being introduced during the first and second years of the medical education. So in the first 2 years, in both programs, medical doctors and naturopathic doctors, we're going to study anatomy, biochemistry, human physiology, histology, pathology, immunology. Did you get enough ologies yet? A few more. Embryology, microbiology, neuroscience, and pharmacology. Talk about no sleep. I was an insomniac, and I ended up, and I finished medical school. I don't know how I did it. So we're going to put up some information for you to see, but during the first few years of the ND school, the credit loads are very similar to those with the medical doctor students. In some cases, you'll see that we actually carry a heavier course load or a burden than our medical doctor counterparts. An average in 2013 and 14, medical doctor students had contact hours the first 2 years of about just under 800 hours. And naturopathic medical students had about 1,100 hours. That's considerable. That's 300 hours difference. So then the third and fourth years, you start training to distinguish the naturopathic medical program from traditional medical schools. And most of our studies is devoted to non-pharmaceutical, non-surgical approaches to manage patient conditions. And we study a lot of time studying lifestyle, nutrition, health promotion, in addition to the biomedical clinical sciences. So we study botanical medicines, which is herbs, clinical nutrition, counseling, including behavioral changes, homeopathy, laboratory and clinical diagnosis, minor surgery, naturopathic physical medicine, nutrition. After all that's said and done, and you complete what we call checkoffs, so you have to go through and complete certain criteria in order to get to graduate. Then after you graduate, you get to sit for 4 days for your clinical exams. So as you can see, our studies are very comprehensive, very telltale. It's not for the faint of heart. When I left engineering school, I thought I had done the most difficult thing I had ever thought I would do, until I hit naturopathic medical school, and that was amazing. So I've seen pretty amazing results with naturopathic medicine, and I only have a few minutes, but I want to tell you one story. My first patient, when I came back to the Boston area, a woman came in. She had ulcerative colitis. She had just gotten notice from her doctor the day before that the only course of action for her ulcerative colitis was to have her colon removed and to give her a colostomy bag for the rest of her life. She looked at me and said, "Dr. Kelty, I am not ready for that." And she starts to cry. And I'm like, this is my first patient. What do you do? Well, I looked at her and I said, "Honey, listen, I'm going to do the best I can with you." And so this is what we did. I gave her a diet. It consisted of no more than 10 foods. Take this home. You eat this for next 2 weeks. You come back in 2 weeks and we'll talk about. I had to give her that difficult diet. One, I need to know if she was compliant, because what she had was not going to be easily healed if she didn't have the grit in order to make that happen. Two, I needed to know that she was committed. And three, she needed some hope. And that's what we gave her. She came back in 2 weeks and she says to me, Dr. Kelty, I don't know what to say. I said, well, what happened? She said, I have no more blood in my bowel movements. I said, that's wonderful. She says, oh, it's better. She says, I was having over 20 bowel movements a day. It was all mucus, nothing. And she says, in those 2 weeks, I have been having regular 2 bowel movements, formed bowel movements a day. Take that in. She had been suffering with this for years. And what happened in 2 weeks with just diet? Fast food, 15 years later, she had a colonoscopy. The doctor looks at her. The nurse looks at the colonoscopy and says, Doctor, you must have the wrong patient. He goes, why? I don't see any scarring from her ulcerative colitis on this patient at all. He goes, yeah, she's my miracle patient. She leaves there. She calls me up. Dr. Kelty, I am so grateful for you. She says, you saved my life. You saved my colon. Thank you. Thank you. If this is something that you need, if you're having some difficulties in your life and you're not finding a way to heal them and to get through them, call me. Contact me. My website is Anne, ANNEND, naturopathicdoctor.com. And let's start you on a journey to get you feeling better. Is it pain? Is it digestive problems? Are you having mental, emotional problems? Come see me. We can start you on a path. We may not be able to heal you totally, but we can get you to start functioning in a better way. I am so grateful that you're here. I am so grateful for all of my guides, all of my angels, all of my saints. And I am especially grateful to Pat Nixon, who is the guru for, for this program. And also a shout out to Peg Jones, who actually introduced me and started getting me on the road to podcasts. We are looking for more content. And so let us know what you want to know about as time goes on. I have a minute or two. So I just want to give you a briefing of what we're going to do in the next couple of weeks. I was so surprised. I started calling people and asking them if they would love to be on my show and share my time. And I got yeses. We have a naturopathic doctor coming on in January. Dr. Rachel Gross is going to talk about the microbiome. Big topic. It's about your digestive system. How's your digestive system? Is it helping to support your mental and emotional, your body as well? I have Ben Carroll coming on. He does some sacred music. He's a musician. He's also doing tuning forks and singing bowls. And we're going to get into a really great discussion on the healing power of music and vibration. We're going to have somebody come in talking about, we're building a community here in the Boston area to bring a holistic, comprehensive, collective community to the communities so that people could come and heal and learn a little bit more about the whole gamut of holistic and alternative medicine. When we do have somebody coming in on the 13th, and we're going to have a great conversation on kindness. And so what I can say is today, be kind to yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Everything is in perfect order, whether we think so or not. Our mental and emotional state, our physical state, is just a blink of an eye in the world and the love of the Creator. I am Dr. Anne Kelty, naturopathic doctor, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Please see my website, AnnekeltyND.com.
getting